You're listening to the Planet 76 podcast, a podcast about 76ers basketball, and we're cleared for takeoff. Let's go.
Everybody to the Planet 76 podcast. I'm your host, Michael from Trust and Love, with my co-host here, Troy. Welcome to the podcast, everybody. This is episode 2, and in this episode, we're going to be talking about the Philadelphia 76ers, game 1 and 2 of the first round of the Eastern Conference I guess it would be quarterfinals, technically, but either way, the first round of the playoffs for the Sixers. And before we get into the episode, make sure you guys subscribe to the podcast, follow the podcast. This is a brand new podcast, 76ers. As you know, we're going to be covering all things Sixers, so make sure you guys keep up with that. Keep up with us as well. Wherever you listen to your podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, there's probably a lot more platforms out there to listen to podcasts. Make sure you check it out. Make sure you follow us on Instagram too, Planet76 Podcast, to keep up with some clips that we have from the podcasts and to keep up with us as well. So with that, we're going to get right into the episode. Like I mentioned, we're going to be discussing Game 1 and 2 of the first round for the Philadelphia 76ers. Troy, why don't you bring us in? Let's do it.
No doubt. Let's do it, man. I can't believe, I just want to point something out, and that is this. We are undefeated. The 76ers are undefeated since we've had a podcast, so I don't know if there's a correlation
Good
there.
luck charm.
But we're 2-0.
Yeah.
I think we're good luck. So, yeah, like you said, man, we're just going to talk. We're going to walk through Game 1 and 2. We're going to look ahead to the 76ers trip to D.C. coming up here in a couple days on Saturday for Game 3. So, Game 1, we'll start there. We'll talk about that, and we'll move on to Game 2 in here in just a minute. But Game 1, Sixers, exciting one, trailing by 1 at the half. 125-118 was the final in favor of the Sixers, and then Game 2, a little not as close in Game 2, 120-95 in favor of the Sixers. So let's just camp out on Game 1. Is that all right?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm down with that. Then we can start with Game 1 and then just go right into Game 2.
What did we see? What's Game 1? What sticks out?
Well, I mean, to be honest, Tobias Harris played great. Obviously,
no doubt.
37 points. He seemed like he just couldn't miss. It was great to see that, especially after last season where Tobias, basically everyone else besides Embiid, stunk it up very badly in the playoffs last year. So it's really nice to see that. And then also, what's it called? Embiid had some nice closing buckets as well. I think he ended with 30. I think he ended with 30. He got off to a little bit of a slow start, but he ended with some clutch buckets.
He did.
Some nice 3-pointers. Sixers shot pretty well from 3 in the third quarter, which was a really nice spark. That's when they really broke the game open. Late third quarter.
That's what I called. I called that stretch in the third quarter. I called that's the get up off your couch.
Yeah,
right there.
It's time to start
when Seth
showing
hit that
some life.
three, that final one, automatic Wizards timeout. I mean, that got me up. That got me pumped.
Yeah.
To put him up like 7 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, we let him back in it a little bit, but that stretch, it went Seth 3, Tobias 3, Danny Green 3. Simmons had that D all over Beal, all over the floor, falling around into a transition 3 for Seth Curry, and it was phenomenal.
That was awesome. Yeah.
Got me up off the couch.
That was great.
And then we got, like you mentioned, Embiid was clutch late in that one. So I think, let me look at some notes here, but, Embiid had 3 straight, I want to say, mid-range jumpers with like less than 3 minutes to go.
Yeah.
In a 4-6 point game, just hitting clutch buckets to really put us away, and that was encouraging to see. Even as you mentioned, Embiid only played, he only played like 10 minutes or something in the first half, something ridiculous.
Yeah, he got off to a pretty slow start in the first half.
Yeah, he played 10 minutes in the first half, only had 9 points, finished with 30. So he was big down the stretch. That was cool to see. And the Sixers were able to put it away. I think another key in Game 1 was Westbrook's turnovers late. So Embiid's getting some his mid-range thing going on, and then Russell Westbrook stepped out of bounds the one time, or did he? I don't know.
He
And then a
he
couple
probably
other
did.
mistakes that he made, and that kind of put the game away. It was some of the Wizards' mistakes, and then Embiid's finishing.
Mhm. Exactly.
They were 3 for 17. I think personally the Sixers were fortunate to only be down 1 at half. Again, if your star plays 10 minutes and you shoot 3 for 17 from 3,
It's not good.
and you're down 1, I think we were lucky.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed.
I think that, like you mentioned, Tobias, he had 29 at half, 28 at
Yeah,
half?
he actually.
He was huge.
I guess I should be more grateful might be the word for the fact that Tobias ended with 37, but like you just said, he had 28, 29 heading into the second half of the game. I was kind of expecting him to go for maybe 40, maybe 45. Would have been nice to see, but again, can't really complain because
that's exactly what I was thinking.
I mean, kind of would have. That would have been nice to see. Not gonna lie, even though 37 is great. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, I was hoping for a little more as well. I think something else worth noting, of course, is Ben Simmons' defense.
Yes.
On Bradley Beal in particular. So I saw a stat later on that said Bradley Beal against defenders. This is game 1. I'm not sure what the stats were for game 2, but game 1, Bradley Beal against someone not named Ben Simmons, he shot 12 for 17, good for 70%, and then with Simmons on him, he was 1 for 6.
Wow.
Quite the difference.
It's pretty interesting. In the words of Russell Westbrook.
Mm-hmm. Pretty interesting, yeah. What else on game 1? Anybody surprise you? Obviously, we've talked about the starters quite a bit. Who off the bench did we like?
I mean, in game 1,
Yeah.
I think, did Maxey get minutes in game 1? I think he played well in game 1. I think, possibly.
Maxey had that tough and one bucket in the first half. He played 7 minutes total, just the one bucket.
Okay, so then maybe not.
Shake, we're gonna get to. Then. I know. He struggled just over the first 2 games total. George Hill at 11 in game 1.
Yeah, okay. I was maybe thinking George Hill. Yeah.
I mean, because he and Dwight both played 18 minutes. They kind of led the charge off the bench, which I guess was to be expected, maybe just because they're veteran guys, and that's kind of why they're here. But they kind of Dwight was a negative 13. Just looking at the box score now, but it didn't seem like it. I guess I don't know. George Hill a negative 1, but I thought that they did what they needed to do to kind of hold us in it while there was foul trouble and things like that.
Guys like that, I feel like they're really here mostly for their veteran presence, their experience. But they're still gonna they're gonna give you 10, 12 points a night. George Hill probably give you a little more here and there, especially because he's a guard. He can do a little bit more offensively than a guy like Dwight Howard off the bench. But yeah, for the most part, I think that's what we're going to be getting from those 2 guys. And like I said, here and there, maybe a little bit more, maybe like a 15-point game from George Hill. So
yeah, I was happy with George Hill. I think that might have been his best game with us so far. It was definitely up there. I mean, he's very limited in our options to choose from in terms of his performances, but to put up 11 on 18 minutes. He had if I remember correctly, it's been because these games are so spread out in the playoffs, especially for the Sixers. Lakers have played every other day, but we haven't. So that was when Sunday. No, we played on Sunday. It's
almost been a week.
We played on Sunday, and if I remember right, George Hill, he looked quick. He had a couple defensive gems as well. So I was very, very happy with him. Korkmaz made up for it in game 2, but only 5 minutes, over 3 from 3. Not a lot of burn for the bench in the second half. I think that was key because we talked about it on the first episode of the preview. We saw 11 guys play in the first half. And you and I talked about that, and we're like, okay, I guess maybe we have our answer. But then we didn't see those guys in the second half.
Yeah.
I don't know if Cork even played in the second. Shake a little bit.
I don't know why I'm having a hard time remembering.
Yeah.
Game 1. I obviously remember the big things, the key points. But when we talk about the bench for Game 1, I'm struggling to, I guess, remember. And I don't even know if did the bench? You're talking about Hill and Howard, and
well, other than that,
outside of that, did anyone else play great or good at least? Yeah, no, right, exactly.
Other than that, it was.
That's probably why I'm having a hard time remembering.
Yeah. It was those two, and again, I don't know who, if I remember correct. Shake got a little burn in the second half, but it was those two guys off the bench. Primarily, again, they led the way in minutes, but just kind of interesting to see how the rotation looked in that one. And then again, able to come out with a dub. Felt good. I was happy. First playoff win in a while, I guess 2 years, right? And so just felt really, really good. I was happy after Game 1, and again, a little closer than maybe we would have liked, but hey, we got the win. So Game 2,
right? Exactly.
Game 2 was last night, and a little bit of a different story. A more balanced attack, if you will. So let's just dive in there to Game 2. Ben Simmons had 12 in the first quarter, and then we had a 71-point first half. And I'm going to let you do this one. What about Matisse Thybulle in Game 2, man? How about that?
Matisse was as impressive as you could have honestly asked for a guy like him, for a guy of his abilities on defense. I was watching the game, and I saw it on the screen. I think I saw it on the screen, or I was checking the stats somewhere. But I saw that he had 4 steals and 3 blocks. And then he got another block, and I was like, what? Is that real? And then after the game, I think he ended with 5 steals, 4 blocks, and he only played 18 minutes.
Yep.
And to be able to do that, getting blocks and steals can be a bit rare, because obviously defensive sequences like that don't always happen in games. And then you add on to the fact that Matisse only played 19 minutes. So the amount of times that he forced a defensive sequence like that was, and there were probably more where he didn't get the steal or he didn't get the block. And it's crazy to see that. So the fact that he managed to get those kind of stats and be able to do that in the amount of time that he played is crazy.
Yeah, he was phenomenal.
A lot of that goes unnoticed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have such a hard time sometimes explaining Matisse Thybulle to some people, because not everybody watches Sixers. Matisse gets limited minutes.
Yeah.
And when you tell somebody about what this guy can do, it doesn't do it justice, I feel like, when I talk about him. And I always try to describe him as just like one of the most unique defenders I have ever seen, and a guy who's literally, like, at least, I'm not saying he's the best defender ever, but like he's the best at the way that he plays defense, because there's not many like him.
And sometimes a lot of people look at defense as not really that exciting, kind of boring, maybe a little stale sometimes, especially if you're, some defenders, I won't name any names, but I personally, Matisse is just really exciting to watch on defense.
Yeah.
He gets in guys' space. He sticks to a player and doesn't leave. He sticks with them no matter like who it is. Obviously we're seeing with Bradley Beal, we're seeing it with Russell Westbrook a little bit too. But he's on your side. He's on your side the whole time. He's a pest.
Yeah.
He sticks with you the entire time. He goes for the. Now he last season he did foul a lot, which he's gotten a lot better at. He'll force you into a bad shot, and he'll most likely get the block or the steal, or he'll get a deflection if you pass it off. But the shots he was blocking last night on guards, on forwards, I think one of his blocks was on Rui Hachimura.
Yeah.
on a pull-up jumper from 6'8" Rui Hachimura. Now Matisse is 6'5", I think.
Yeah, I think so.
So, obviously not that large of a height difference, but even still, he's just really exciting to watch. His on-ball defense is fantastic. He's just really exciting to watch as a defender. And like I said, sometimes defense people look at defense as not as exciting as offense, which, okay, that's fair. But sometimes, and when it's Matisse Thybulle, sometimes it can definitely be as exciting as offense.
Agreed. I think that, he is 100% in the NBA because of his defensive ability.
Yes.
And because of what he does on that end. And that's rare to see a first-round pick in the NBA because he plays defense well.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't come around very often, someone like that. And to your point, I have a hard time taking my eyes off of him when he's in the game.
Yeah.
Just because it's like, what's he gonna do? It's so fun to watch him. Even if he doesn't, get the steal, get the block, he'll get a deflection, he'll disrupt something, he'll, make a offensive player pick the ball up. He's everywhere. And
he's like you said, he's a disruptor.
Yeah.
He just gets in the way.
Yeah.
It's just something that a lot of players aren't able to do and aren't able to do that well.
Yep, and I'm hoping that a long Sixers playoff run is going to get him, some much-deserved recognition. He's already received some, but again, for you and I, we follow or we keep up with a lot of Sixers news and updates and stuff. So of course, Sixers pages and people we follow are going to be aware of that. But I saw something yesterday that just from an NBA report about his defense yesterday, and that's just cool because
he's gaining some recognition from what's the word? Widespread NBA fans and teams, and it's really great to see because a lot of times, and this goes right along with what you're saying, a lot of times a guy like Matisse Thybulle's abilities won't get recognized, especially on defense.
Yeah. So it's so cool to see. I think that it's only gonna continue, as we go deeper into the playoffs. We get to, the Eastern Conference semis, Eastern Conference Finals, and so on and so on and so on. When there's limited games to watch, there's going to be more people watching, and so hopefully he continues to get that.
Right.
Let's just talk generally now before we get ahead, to Game 3. So what has stood out? Let's start with the positives, then we'll get to some negatives, maybe some things the Sixers need to work on. But what are some positive things and takeaways just from Game 1 and Game 2 that you would say, okay, I'm happy about that?
Well, I would say that for the most part, positives, just our big three, Simmons, Embiid, Harris. Simmons had a great first 2 games. Embiid had a pretty good first 2 games. Now, Tobias Harris played well in Game 2, but he obviously stood out in Game 1. And I'm really impressed with how these guys are playing, especially offensively. You know what those 2 guys are going to bring defensively, obviously Simmons and Embiid. But offensively, I've been really impressed with what I've seen from them so far. And I'm just really hoping it continues because we need that. We need Simmons on offense, as much as people don't want to admit it. He's a great player. He's good on offense. He's not the best shooter, as we know, but he's still really good on offense. He can score when he wants. It's obvious. We've seen it now. And we just need that. And Tobias Harris, too. We need that offense, especially now. If we want to make a run, these 2 guys are going to be key because if they're able to score and get to their spots and Simmons is able to be aggressive on offense, it's going to help a lot. It can probably be a deciding factor for this team.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. That was actually one of mine. So I got that and one more. So Game 2, the shooting efficiency from Ben, Toby, and Embiid. So Ben was 11 for 15. Tobias Harris was 9 for 13. JoJo was 8 for 12.
Shots.
Okay, add that up. That is 28 for 40 percentage. That's 70% shooting in Game 2 from our big three. 70%. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that if we shoot 70% with those 3 guys for the rest of the playoffs, we're going to win the NBA Finals. I'm just going to say it.
We're in good shape. Let's say that. We're in good shape.
Let's keep that up. 70% shooting. I'll take that every single day from here on out. So elite stuff there. And I'm actually going to go back to Matisse. We've been talking about Matisse. Let's keep talking about him. Matisse, I saw a stat yesterday.
Let's do it.
4 steals, 5 blocks in 20 minutes, right? Okay, that has happened I don't know how many times, but the last 5 times in the NBA playoffs, that was done by Draymond Green twice. That was done by Ben Wallace. He was a pretty good defender. He did that twice. And Kawhi Leonard.
I would say so,
Okay,
yeah.
so the last 5, I mean, that's spanning, I mean, Ben Wallace is early 2000s. So, like, that's only happened 5 other
That's Hall of Fame
times
defense.
in the last 15, 20 years. And Matisse Thybulle did it in just 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
That's elite company. So Matisse is a bright spot for
Hall
sure.
of Fame company. Hall of Fame company.
Hall of Fame company, no doubt. You're exactly right. I mean, those
Hall of Fame company.
Those are 3 guys that are absolutely known for their defense, and he joined that company during yesterday's game on Wednesday night. So that's one thing that I think has been awesome to see. Ben's turnovers. Ben's averaging 11.5 assists through these 2 games, only 2 turnovers a game. He keeps that up. That's going to be big. I think another key was that no starter in last night's 20-point win played over 30 minutes. A couple guys had 29 minutes, a couple guys in the low 20s.
Wow, that's interesting.
I think that's big. I mean, it proves that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, it proves that some of our guys didn't have to come in. JoJo only played 26. Ben led the way with 29.
Right.
Tobias only 23. So definitely encouraging stuff there.
And it's great. It's great that, I mean, again, you mentioned it, I hope it lasts, but it's great that we can have guys to score the ball outside of Embiid so that we don't have to rely on him so heavily. And obviously, we want to rely on him because he's our best offensive player. Well, he's our best scorer, but, we want to rely on him enough, but we don't want to rely on him too much because, we don't want him to just have to take too many shots or play too many minutes or take on too much of the load offensively to where he's, forcing shots and all this stuff. So it's really nice to see that guys can contribute. And like we were talking about, I guess 5 minutes ago in the podcast, but, it's great that these guys are stepping up because this team's going to need it in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. So to see, we got our one Mike Scott game. Michael, we got it.
oh yeah, I remember that.
He
Yeah,
said he's only going to.
Let's hope it stays. Let's hope he doesn't come.
He might get a few more.
Let's hope he doesn't.
I think we'll be okay with that if it's another 20-point win.
Yeah.
But hilarious. So Mike Scott checked in. Isaiah Joe got some burn. Paul Reed from the mud or whatever he says. He got some.
Paul Reed got some. Yeah.
So now let's be critical here. All right. So we got 2 wins under our belt, but what would we like to see improved upon? And I'm gonna hit you with this one because I want to hear it from the biggest Shake Milton fan out there, in yourself. Shake Milton, where you at, man? What's he doing?
I don't know. I've been a little quiet on Shake. I haven't really spoken much about Shake Milton in the past few weeks. I don't know. I don't really know, honestly.
0 for 6 yesterday in 14 minutes.
Yeah. I don't really have much to say about it. What I will say, though, is I don't know. I think he's probably just having a rough stretch of basketball. Maybe, I mean, I don't want to say he's not used to the playoffs because he played so well last year in the playoffs. So that's the thing. I'm not really sure what it is because he really came, he really sort of found his way and he sort of started to come up on everyone's radar after last season's playoffs. For being thrown into a starting point guard role, which he is not a point guard, for being thrown into that role and playing so well in that role last year, and then to come in this year in the playoffs and kind of have the opposite. I don't know. I hope it's just a bad stretch of games because we know Shake Milton's great. We know he's a great player. He's a great shooter, great scorer. He's gotten better defensively. He's gotten a little better passing and making plays and things like that. So we really hope I really hope he's just in a rut because we need that. We need as much bench help as we can get.
I agree. I mean, I hope it's just a rough stretch.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta hope so because we need him, and he's clearly the best guy off our bench that we can say, okay, go get a bucket.
Mm-hmm. I mean, he had a stretch where he was dropping like 20 straight, like 20 plus for a couple games, like a handful of games in a chunk of time.
Mm-hmm.
He had 28 once. He had 23. Did he have 31 at one point too? early in the season, he may have.
What's that?
I said, did he have 31 points at one point early in the season?
I think
Something
so.
like that.
Probably,
It
yeah.
wouldn't surprise me. So that's what
Oh
I'm
yeah.
saying. I mean, to put it simply, he's a bucket when he's actually in tune and engaged with the game.
Mm-hmm. So follow-up question to Shake Milton.
Okay.
Follow-up question to that
Okay.
has to do with Tyrese Maxey.
Mhm.
So let's say Shake Milton's play continues. Do they swap roles? Like, is that a possibility? I mean, I think there's obviously a shorter leash with guys in the playoffs. If Shake continues to struggle, which we hope he doesn't, does Tyrese get some of those minutes? How long's the leash? Like, I mean, have you thought about that? Like, what do you think Doc Rivers would do? Shake goes out and posts another offer in Game 3, and then, Game 4 is tight, and you need someone to come in third quarter, get some buckets. Does he go to Maxey? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think Game 3 could be a turning point in that respect. I think maybe if Shake, like you said, if he posts another stinker, who knows? Maybe Maxey will take some of his minutes. Maybe they'll split minutes. Maybe it'll be like
Yeah.
a 10-10 split. Maybe like an 8-8 split, depending on. Again, I'm not sure how many minutes Shea gets offhand, but maybe they'll split their minutes. Maybe Maxey will get more minutes. Maybe who knows? But I think if not Game 3, I think Game 4. If it's a sweep, I think the first round will be very telling as to what's going to happen with Shake, because entering the playoffs. And even before his bad stretch, and during his bad stretch, I guess too. But I think we were all under the assumption that Shake was going to be fine. He's going to be in the playoffs. He's going to be a contributor off the bench, and we haven't really seen it yet. So
Yeah.
I could definitely see Maxey getting some of his minutes, and it's only for the best. I mean, I personally would rather have Shake as opposed to Tyrese Maxey. I'm just still Shake Milton. I like Shake Milton,
Yeah.
but if that's what needs to be done to help the team more in any given situation, then I say would do it, because obviously we know Tyrese Maxey, he gives that burst off the bench. He's got that energy. He's quick.
Mm-hmm.
He's good. He's good at making decisions. Good at getting to the rim as well. So whatever is going to have to be done to help this team.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, no doubt, to see how
Yeah.
that's going to play out.
Yep.
Not just with the Wizards, but down the road.
Exactly.
Vice versa. Whoever's struggling, what's it gonna look like with a shorter leash in the playoffs? I don't know if it's worth noting, but they both played 14 minutes yesterday. Again, blowout, 20-point game. But they did split even minutes. Tyrese dropped 10.
Right.
And Shake had 0. So, I don't know. We're just going to have to see how that's going to play out. And the good thing is that we're not too worried about it right now because we're up 2-0. But this is certainly a more difficult conversation if it's 1-1. And it's like, okay, where do the Sixers go?
Right.
We can push ahead to game 3 and 4 and think about what's going to look, what are we going to do? What do the Sixers need to do to close out and come home to Philadelphia with a 4-0 sweep after their trip to D.C. and stuff like that? But before that, what about, just real quick, the Wizards and what they've done? What are they doing wrong? Bertans, I just have to say it because it's hilarious. His stat line yesterday, after putting up 14 in Game 1 off the bench, Game 2 was not the same. 0 points, 2 boards, 0 assists, 0 steals, 0 blocks, and 6 fouls in 24 minutes.
Game 2 was not kind to this man, I will say that.
Game 2 was not kind to him at all.
Oh, man.
Hilarious. 'Cause he looked good in Game 1, and there were guys saying that, okay, maybe he should start over Raul Neto just because, one, the size of Neto and
his shooting
they
ability.
need some of that scoring in the offensive lineup, but that didn't happen, and he fouled out. But anything else just on the Wizards, their issues, what could they do? What kind of adjustments can they make? How do they avoid a sweep? I don't know.
At this point, I think it's more on the Sixers Whether or not there's a sweep, I don't know. I don't know what the Wizards could do to prevent the sweep because I feel like they've thrown all they've got at the Sixers at this point in time. And I feel like
Yeah.
we've seen what we've seen from the Wizards is what they are. Bradley Beal is fantastic, but let's be honest, he's their only real threat on offense. Russ Westbrook is great, but he's not. I don't know if he's a go-to guy like Beal is. I don't know if he can just.
Yeah.
I mean, he's had some. He had a decent game 1 and 2, but I don't know. That's not. Those two guys are not enough, and the Sixers. I mean, not the Sixers. The Wizards don't have enough around those two guys to make up for it, and I don't know what they can do to prevent a sweep because at this point I think it's more or less inevitable, and I think the Sixers, like I said, I think it's more on the Sixers whether or not the Sixers are able to close it out. That's on them. I don't think it has anything to do with the Wizards at all, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think the easy answer is, okay, well, they're just going to have to rely on Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook. Oh, well, they're already doing that, and it's not working.
Not really doing much, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as we mentioned on the previous episode, like, we can give Bradley Beal 45, maybe 60, like we did in the regular season, and still win the game. That's like you said, that's a Wizards issue. That's not our issue. If you get 60 and we win, that's fine with us, especially come playoff time. So I don't know. I don't know. I do think they'll try to even rely more on those guys, if at all possible. Game 1, the closer game, just, again, looking at the stats, looking at the numbers, no other starter had over 8 field goal attempts. Westbrook and Beal had 40 combined.
Wow.
23 and 17 from those two. Hachimura was next with 8 attempts from the floor. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. You're right. So hopefully the Sixers can get the job done. Come home with a sweep. I think that would be lovely. Do you think they can make it happen? Do you think they will make it happen?
I think they can. I think they will. At this point, I think they're really in rhythm with how to play this team, to play the Wizards, that is, to play this team well enough to win. Game 2 is a perfect example. I think that's going to break up in the series, and I think it's going to be a sweep. I had Sixers in 5, as we talked about in the last episode. But I think at this point, I think it'll be a sweep, honestly.
Yeah, well, that's a good feeling because if you can go, it's better to go from 5 to saying, oh, it could be 4 than to say, oh, it could be 6.
Right.
So
exactly.
That's good. That's good. I sure hope so. I think they can definitely get it done. I think they just got to stay focused. I think you just got to keep the foot on the gas. Don't let up. Even if we go up 3-0, don't let up. You don't want to come back to Philly and have to play another one with these guys. I mean, just finish them off. Get rested. Get healthy. Finish. Some banged up knees and ankles and whatever you got to do to rest up for that potential next round between a series that I think is going 7 between the Knicks and the Hawks, tied up 1-1
I think
right now.
7. I think maybe 6. I'm gonna go 6,
Okay.
but it could go 7 though. And I got Knicks and 6.
With who?
So
Knicks and 6.
Knicks and 6.
Ooh,
Yes.
those Knicks
Yes.
fans are brutal, man. I don't know if I want it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want it, man.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. But anything else, just like around the league, like anything surprise you in the playoffs so far?
I don't think anything's really surprised me. I will say that this playoffs has been very exciting. A lot of exciting stuff, a lot of unexpected moments, and I've been thoroughly enjoying this playoff so far. Last year I couldn't say the same. I mean, I guess maybe it was because of the bubble and all that, but this year so far, this season's playoffs have been fantastic, I will say.
It has. I think I don't remember every game 1 of the first round being so close.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
Awesome.
Even the Jazz and Grizzlies series.
Yeah,
for the most
1-1. 1-1. That's a good one. The Clippers is hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
Down 0-2. Now they have to go to Dallas. Dude.
Oh man, that's so embarrassing.
I mean, that's terrible. And then one more that's has stuck out to me is the Bucks and Heat. I thought for sure that was going to be the best series, and I was like, I told you so to everybody. I told that after game 1. I was like, yeah, overtime win. You see a buzzer beater, but now after game 2, man.
Yeah.
And they're playing right now. I think the Bucks were beating them by double digits last time I saw.
Yeah, same.
That series could be over soon. So little surprised, I guess, by that. But I think anytime you're a road team and you're the underdog and you almost get one, just like the Heat almost got the Bucks in game 1, and then you don't. I mean, chances are that next game is going to be a blowout, and it was.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's all I got around the league. But, of course, we're going to be back next week.
Yes.
Hopefully talking about a 76ers sweep and not preparing for Game 5. But, that's all I got. What else?
Yeah, that's it. Hopefully, like you just said, hoping for a sweep, hoping for a nice, clean path to the second round against the Knicks. Well, or the Hawks, but,
That's right.
But,
expected. As expected, we're taking care of business, and that's a good sign. So we'll be back next week. This is Planet 76, a podcast about the Philadelphia 76ers, and your Philadelphia 76ers are up 2-0 on the Washington Wizards in round 1. We'll pick up with you next week. Peace. You just listened to an episode of the Planet 76 podcast. Hey, we appreciate you joining us for this episode. Whatever platform you're on, why don't you hit that subscribe button for us, and we'll see you next time.